Y'all, I am so excited to have Abi Levine on the podcast and the show today. I have known Abi for, I don't know, maybe like 5-6 years now, maybe more than that. And Abi is my amazing, lovely hypnotherapist. And I have worked, okay, let me just give you guys a little context. When I first met Abi, we first worked on my relationship with money. I was like in this like scarcity mindset place. And so Abi really helped me like move that around in my subconscious. And I think that year my business tripled. And then we moved on.
Actually, you 5X'd.
Oh,
you
thank you.
5X'd.
She's like, I remember, girl. 5X that business. Getting out of my own way. And then we moved on because we were like, okay, I want to now work on my relationship with like overeating. And we worked on that, moved some things around. And like the 2 years after that, I lost 110 pounds. Now we're working on some new stuff, like namely, like I'm in a whole identity crisis about like what happens like after I hit a lot of my goals. Like, what do I do now and who am I? And so like, Abi, you are like, I think you're like a secret weapon for me in terms of being a high performer. And I'm so grateful for you. So I really wanted to have you on the show. Welcome to Bossy.
I am so excited to be here. Yay! Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I want to give people like a little context here because when you talk about yourself, do you call yourself a hypnotherapist or use a different word?
So it depends, honestly, it depends on who I'm talking to. So if I'm talking, It does, because it's just different contexts for different people. And I'm so aware of like where people are at when I'm talking to them. So for someone who is very clear that they have mindset issues, then it's a hypnotherapist or a mindset coach. For business owners, I position myself as a money mindset coach because I know business owners are looking at their bottom line, wondering why they can't break through, right? That income level that we get stuck at sometimes. And then for founders that are really here to make an impact, such as yourself, I'm a little bit more of a guide. So usually for founders, especially in a one-on-one capacity, when they've made as much money as they want to make doing a thing, and they're really looking to really dive into like their soul's calling, because I really believe everybody has one. And they also don't want to take a hit in their standard of living, right? So it's like, let's keep the money up, let's keep the money flowing, but now let's bring it more into this space that feels really electrifying.
Yeah. I think when I met you, someone initially introduced me to you as like a hypnotherapist who specializes in your relationship with money. I think that was like the initial context that I got. And can you kind of break down what hypnotherapy is in the first place? What the heck is it?
Absolutely. I'm happy to, because there's so much misunderstanding around hypnosis. So hypnosis is like a really natural state. So anytime we fall asleep, anytime we wake up, we're going through two states of hypnosis, which is alpha and theta. Those are the states of like our brain waves. Anytime we're driving on the freeway and we miss our exit, we were in hypnosis when that happened. Anytime you like get to your destination and you're like, wait, did I run any red lights? I do not remember driving here. Like that was a state of hypnosis. And so it's just essentially what it is, it's a relaxed state of being with a focused state of mind. And when I do it in conjunction with therapy, we have a very specific intention of, locating something that's going on in someone's mind that's really pulling away from what they're trying to create and maybe creating some internal conflict. And then, kind of tweaking that neurologically in order to get everything in alignment so that your whole brain is pulling for you.
When I think about, like, I don't know what you're supposed to call more like traditional therapy. I don't know what it's called, but like I don't know. Like when I think about that work that I have done with therapists, it's a lot of like talking about the issue. And I'm like, I know that I have this issue. I know I have this repeated pattern. I know that like I made a bunch of money this week, but I'm still worried about getting my nails done. But it's happening in my subconscious. I am conscious of it. I just don't know how to stop it. And so what I love about the work that you do is like, it's really focused on the like, okay, now that we know that that's there, like how do we move it? And I find that when I do other forms of therapy, we just talk a lot and we just like chat about the thing that's happening. But I'm like, girl, I want to do something about it. I don't want to just talk about it over and over again. bossy to your work that I love.
Yes.
I don't have the
Yes.
time.
I don't have the patience, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
I am not even interested in sitting and talking about the same thing for like weeks at a time. I'm like, yeah. Let's get rid of that. Let's move on to the next thing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating because, like, most people don't know that when you are consciously talking about something, it's only with 3% of your brain that you're addressing the issue.
Right.
Because talking doesn't actually address the 97% that is actually running and creating the problem. Like, you need a process to get into your unconscious mind if you want to have any shifts.
Yeah. Like when I explain to people like the work that I do with you, like I'll explain that like I usually will come to the session with a thing that I want to work on, although you've nicely very recently told me like you don't have to come with a thing, we will find a thing. But I often will come with a thing that I want to work on, this like pattern that I see myself in. Like recently there's a part of me that just gets so irritated by my mother. And I was like, I'm going to hang out and spend some time with my mom. I would like to not be so irked by her behavior. How do I just get myself in a place where I'm just like cool, calm, collected with anything she throws my way, right? It might be something like that, right? Or it might be like, oh, I see myself really limiting myself in my business. And like, I have all these really small beliefs that I'm squishing. Like, I really would like some more space to like not think so small. So I come in and like the work that we do is like the guards that are standing at the door of my subconscious, they go on break.
Yes.
And we can like go in there and work at a subconscious level. And sometimes it's like we need to go find little Tara and ask her what she needs in order to like go on sabbatical on this topic. Because she's running the show, right? Like the 3-year-old is running the show on this. And like, I need her to go sit down.
She's not qualified.
She is not.
She's not qualified.
Girl, she's not qualified, but she still thinks she's doing the job. So that's kind of like what the work looks like. And so I have a lot of friends who I tell them about you. And some people get really scared and freaked out about it because what they think about is like the guy doing the magic trick, and they're like, you are getting sleepy, and they're like, I'm gonna lose all control over like my whole life. And like so my question to you is like, is there a type of person who is not ready to do this kind of work? Or like maybe they like, why do people think it's scary? Or are those people just like not ready to work with you?
Ooh, what a great question. So the people who would not be ready for this kind of work.
Be honest.
Right. No, I will. Absolutely. Yeah. Are really the people who think they want to change, but they don't actually want change.
Girl, that's a lot of people.
But it happens on like different levels, right?
Yeah.
Like you can consciously desire change and I can work with you.
Yeah.
Right. And you're ready for this work, even if the other 97% of your brain is like, you know, like if you consciously have made a decision, then that's good. But there are some people who are deluding themselves, right? So they're saying something like, oh, let's just use like quitting smoking as an example. They're saying something like, I want to stop smoking, but they don't actually want to stop smoking. It's because their partner is saying they have to stop smoking, or someone else is putting a bunch of pressure on them to do a thing. Or society is coming in from the outside and saying, this is the way that you should be, but they don't actually agree, like even within just their heart, right? And so if someone comes to me and is like, this is what I want to create, and I'm like, why? And their reasoning is because I'm supposed to, or because I should, or because someone else said I need to, then I can't in good conscience like walk them through this process, because it's actually taking them away from who they are. Now, it's totally natural for someone to be afraid of this process.
Yeah.
And especially for high achievers, because we have had to control every single aspect, right? We've had to be in such tight control of the reins that to consider giving the reins up to somebody else. And there is an element of that, right? Like when someone trusts me to take them into hypnosis, they are letting go.
Yeah.
It is a co-creation, but they are having to let go of control for that moment and let me come in. And that's a really, really scary thing. Now, like one thing I will address is that it's not possible to like change someone into something that they don't want to be. Like, you can't do something to someone's mind that they don't consent to.
Yeah,
Like,
I feel
that's
like I'm
not
very
actually
much in
possible.
control, by the way. Like, I don't feel
Right.
like I'm out of
Right.
control. I do have a lot of trust for you, but like it's kind of
Right.
just like my mind is awake, my body's just like a little bit asleep, but like not
Yeah,
in a way that like if I just like get my fingers moving, I bring myself like back. Like I don't feel like I can
absolutely.
like not come back if I wanted to. I'm just sort of like
Right.
in
Like,
a
nobody's
floaty, yeah.
actually asleep.
Correct. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Can we have a quick woo conversation for a minute? Because I don't want to like tone down too much the like level of
Yes.
woo-woo-ness that we typically talk with. So I'm thinking about my relationship with money, my relationship with success, and my relationship with my business. And I have a
Mhm.
very spiritual woo-woo relationship with my business now. Like I can feel with like she's almost like a maybe more like a preteen now, so I can like feel when she needs like attention from me. I can
Yes.
almost feel it like before it becomes an issue. I can feel like, oh, this is gonna be like this is on its way to I'm being pulled a little bit energetically. I also can feel like, oh, okay, she's good. Like let me go over and do something else because she's fine now. But I want to hear like if someone's not really familiar with the concept of like a relationship with money or a relationship with
Yeah.
success, like
Yeah.
what does that even mean from your view?
Yeah. Ooh, what a juicy question. I love it. Also, by the way, celebrating you because like nobody has any clue the amount of intentional effort that it took for you to
Yeah.
create this relationship. It's not something that you trip over. You don't just have a thought and then you trip over and you're like, oh, good, everything is different now, right? It took some intentional effort.
A hundred
Um,
percent. The week that I met you, I like couldn't get my nails done. I couldn't do this thing because I was in such a like scarcity mindset. And I also, by the way, like I was living like paycheck to paycheck, and like the business was doing well, but I wasn't doing well yet. And so like that was a moment in time that you've really helped me transition from. But keep going because I want to hear like how you think about
yeah.
relationship with money.
Yeah, absolutely. So, with people who've never really encountered the relationship with money, is where I kind of start with the science, right? Because everything that is woo can be backed up by scientific studies that were started like hundreds of years ago. And so, essentially, it's like 24/7, we're putting out energy from our cells when they're doing metabolism processes of turning our food into fuel. And every time a process happens, we leak that energy out. And because we have 32 trillion cells, it actually becomes an energetic wave that can be read on a scientific scan. And so, this is when I talk about energy, I'm not talking about like, oh, some like magical, mystical concept that we can't touch. No, I'm talking about something that is measurable because energy is made up of particles, and particles are made up of atoms, and atoms are every single atom in every single thing, whether it's see through like energy or it is, like you can see it and hold it like this mouse. Everything is made up of the same three subatomic particles, which are protons, neutrons, and electrons. And because everything is made up of the same stuff, we have the ability to communicate. I mean, it looks like telekinesis, but it's not. It's physics. It's quantum entanglement. It's
Yeah.
it's the study and the theory that your particles can affect other particles anywhere in time and space. And so when we're talking energetically, this is what we're talking about. And so, yes, it might sound a bit woo to say, like, my business has a consciousness, but it does.
Yeah.
Everything has a consciousness because everything is made up of particles that carry their own energy, and you can actually interact with that energy like
Yeah.
on a scientific basis. It's proven, right? So, like, on a microscopic basis, on a quantum level, it comes down to like, this is a real thing, essentially.
We've had a lot of my friends come on this show. I'm thinking about episodes that I've done with like Danielle Leslie or my friend Rachel
Mm,
Rogers. And I
mm,
remember in the episode with Rachel, she's talking about like working on a big project and a big deal that she was working on. And also what happens when she, in the middle of that, like goes to the beach to go chill.
mm.
And you hear really high achieving, definitely women, men too, but like really high achieving women like have this understanding of how to manipulate energy around things that they're trying to put out into the world. So the example she was giving is one I think about often, like in my, like, I think about money magic often. Like one example of money magic is that like I put out an intention, there's like a deal I'm trying to close. But at some point I pull my attention away from that.
Yes.
Like I kind of am like, it already, almost like I act like it already happened. I go on vacation, I move my energy away from it. And there's something about the abrupt pullback. It's almost like when you're like dating someone and you're really, really entangled, then you like pull back a little bit, that like creates like absence makes the heart grow fonder, and it like creates, it makes the thing happen faster. It like actually accelerates the thing. And like all of my friends who are like, they're just movers and shakers, they all understand these types of things. It's like relationship with money, relationship with success, and making things happen in a, quote unquote, woo-woo way. But like maybe that's the level up that you move into at some point.
Right. What's happening I mean, if you like, can I talk about what's happening?
Please.
Like why that works?
Yeah, I don't know why it works. I'm like, oh, that worked. Let me do it again.
It does. It definitely does. And really what's happening is that when you are calling something in, your particles are literally magnetizing their particles because you're holding the frequency that like attracts like, okay? So like you can walk into a room of bells or gongs that are all tuned to different frequencies. And when you bang on the gong that is at one frequency, every other gong at that same frequency will sound without having to actually hit them individually.
Really?
And that is, that is the physical manifestation of this principle that we're talking about, like attracts like. It's called cohesion in physics. So, okay, so you're in this state of calling something in, whatever it is, a big deal. Let's take Rachel's example, right? You're in this state of calling in this big deal. So you're holding the frequency. Your particles are pinging all of the other particles that have anything to do with this deal, whether it's people, resources, connections, like literally just energy. Your particles are pinging those particles, and those things start coming closer together because that's what happens in physics. But there's this principle in physics that when things get too close, they actually move into pushback, which is like Newton's third law of physics, is that what you're pushing against is also pushing against you.
You're too thirsty on the goal.
Yes. So what's happening is like you're creating this like, I'm going to pull it in, but that's external energy, right? It's energy going out, and you're like pushing against it. And it's like, I'm trying to come in, babe. Like, you need to chill. And so what happens when you go on vacation or you go to the beach or you like, all right, like, I can feel it's not working because I'm in too much pushing energy. You switch polarities. And when you switch magnetic polarities, that thing actually has the capacity to come all the way into you because it's not pushing against each other anymore. So that's the science of how that works.
I am thinking about the version of myself, this was not that long ago, that would have thought that this conversation was absolutely effing bonkers. Like, I just wouldn't, I was so anti all of this. I was so like, I do my logic and I do my business in its order, and I was so attached to that, and it's really funny to me that I can like kind of move forward in time to see this version of myself. But this concept of like attracting, being the thing that you're trying to attract, right? So that there's like a similar vibration is something that I think I have seen in my own life in my very spiritual practice of fashion. So for me, like fashion is a spiritual practice. This particular project has been like a very specific use case of this practice. And I call it like, whenever I come record this show, I call it like I designed a portal for myself because there's like a thing that I'm trying to step into. So if I go look at the first episode of this show, like I'm wearing, I actually am dressing differently than I do now, but I'm wearing this like sparkly outfit. Like I was kind of like channeling like my my Beyonce vibe. Like I'm a star, and I did not feel that way. By the way, that first whole season, like I didn't fully feel the like way that I presented, but I was intentionally trying to like take a place I wanted to go, a way I wanted to feel, and like let's dress up into that So that like, who else is it? Like, you are that bitch. Who else is it but you? So I play these little games with myself of like stepping into the next thing. I'm now in my like embracing my weird and quirkiness. So I'm in a whole like fairy tale dress up scenario. But I think like for me, this practice of like getting on the wavelength of where I'm trying to go, if you don't want to talk about it in a woo-woo perspective, there is that's like a concrete example of like what I think it may look like, at least for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's you're absolutely on the money, and I can talk about from a woo perspective, and
Great.
I can talk about
Give
it
us
from
both.
a science perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from a woo perspective, and it's only slightly woo because it hasn't been actually specifically proven. It's only a little woo. Is that every version of your future self exists simultaneously, right? This is parallel universes, multiple timelines. And so it's my belief and understanding that when you have an idea of who you are becoming, right? And it feels so much closer than who you want to be, which is why I say who you're becoming.
Yeah,
because
that's different.
Right. It does have a different energy, doesn't it? It's like who you want to be just constantly feels out of reach, but who you're becoming almost feels inevitable. There's just like a time component that's missing, right?
And who I want to be often has a bunch of shoulds mixed up in there for me. And so who I'm already kind of like, oh, dang, I'm resisting this, but it's already coming. That feels more real.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the reason that it feels more real, and there is like who you want to be is a fairy tale. It doesn't exist. And who you're becoming is just an alternate version of you that already exists on a future timeline, right? And so when you're stepping into, this is the woo bit, when you're stepping into that version of you, you're just borrowing information that you are going to learn along the way, right? You're like, hey, do you have any tips that I can do you have any tools from my tool belt that I can borrow right now?
Yeah.
Any energetic frequencies that I can borrow right now, which will collapse the timing between here and there. And your future self is so willing. She's like, yeah, babe, here, fix this, do that. She's
For
like,
me, she's like, here's the outfit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll let you borrow it.
Yeah. Whereas mine is all about mindset, right? Because I'm always so deep in the brain. I love that. Exactly right. And so that's the woo perspective. And then from a scientific perspective, what you're doing, okay, we talked about how scientifically you're putting out energy that can be measured, right? That energy will only attract that which is in the same frequency. The same as when you walk into the room, you'll bang on a gong. The other gongs that are not at that frequency will not sound. This is physics, right? So you actually do have to, if what you want is on a different frequency, you do have to kind of hijack that frequency for a moment so that you can even begin to stop magnetizing everything that is meant, to kind of come to you at that particular frequency. Because if you stay at the lower vibration, the lower frequency, the particles will simply miss each other in time and space. They just won't even see each other. They'll act like the gongs that are tuned to a different frequency.
Yeah.
And so it is a little bit act as if, but it's not try to fool yourself that you're something that you're not. It's more in the energy of what will it be like? How will it feel? And what will your energy be like when it's operating at that much more of an expansive level, right?
Yeah.
What will it feel like? And then, side note, when you're doing that, your body is releasing the neurochemicals and the hormones that are acclimating your body for what that level of success looks like and feels like, which means that when it comes, you have a much lower chance of going into self-sabotage.
And going right back. Okay. So this is a really good segue because we're talking about relationship with money, relationship with success, but stepping into this next version of yourself that's totally comfortable with the money, totally comfortable with the success so it can stay there. And this kind of segues really nicely into a conversation about identity. I'm in the middle of a whole identity shift myself, which you already know. I've been so damn focused on business Tara. CEO Tara business Tara's been in the CEO seat. And I recently had a reorg where business Tara, she moved to the board. She's still here, but she's on the board now. And like creative artist Tara is now taking over that role. And I'm in a little like awkward period of like getting settled in this new transition. Business Tara is like, don't mess up my job. I'm watching you. Or she's like a little stressed over there, but she's chilling out. She's just settling down a little bit. And so that's what's happening. And it made me think like there's probably a lot of people who are going through just identity shifts of like, I've been so attached to this version of myself and now like I'm ready to be like a different version. What is the difference, Abby, between like an identity that is like truly yours and one that like you accidentally got handed to you?
I think that's so pertinent. And, it's just what's so fascinating is that we've been talking about that.
Yeah.
And I've been talking about it with every single high functioning person that I know. Is everybody is going through some kind of major identity shift right now. So I think it's really relevant.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest challenges will come within the unconscious programming, right?
Yeah.
So when you're born into a family that believes that X, let's say a lot of people come from families where money is a taboo subject, right? Even families where there's plenty of money, it's not talked about, or there are fights about it, or there's just no relationship that's established with money that's openly discussed, right? And so like, even if you have like a strong money imprint within your family line, there's still that lacking of that like connection.
Yeah.
And then it goes all the way to, imprints where money is bad. You can't have too much. Look at what people with a lot of money do to other people and the world. They don't care, right? And so that's just money as an example. But we get these imprints of how we are supposed to be, what's acceptable to believe within our family system. And they happen on such an unconscious level because we're, 0 years old when it starts. And so it's not like we're sitting there as a 4-year-old taking notes of what, dad said about how he discusses money. No, we're just absorbing that, and it's becoming imprints within our unconscious programming. Anything, by the way, that we do that is not acceptable, right? When we do something or we say something or we bring something to, especially our primary caregivers, and we get a look, or we get a demonishment, or we get in trouble, or we get a keep your feet on the ground, anything that resembles anything other than complete acceptance becomes like a brandishing, like where our original soul self is tarnished. And so our child mind, on a completely unconscious basis, rips off, fractures and rips off this part of us that is not acceptable and kind of shoves it somewhere in the back. And then we start creating this amalgam of what are the acceptable parts of us. Because we need love, because we need acceptance. And so like this amalgam is just constantly reinforced throughout our childhood, and then we move into adulthood, and then we have this persona, this perception. Some people might call it an identity, right? We have this identity that we know in our bones is not representative of us, right? And this is often where I forget exactly what it's called, but imposter syndrome. This is where imposter syndrome comes from.
My brain has completely forgotten this concept. What do you mean imposter syndrome?
Exactly. It's so far out of my awareness at this point. I'm like, people still go through this, right?
I can't.
So we have this like deep intrinsic knowing that this amalgam that we're presenting forward as ourselves is just not us. It's only a representative. But we don't know what ourselves is. And so that is how like I would kind of differentiate between the identity that we feel like we should have, right? It's usually tied up with money. It's usually tied up with success for whatever reason, right? If I can do X, I will prove them wrong. Or if I can do X, they will finally be proud of me, or some variation of that, right? So So a false identity that's usually success related will come from our early childhood experiences.
Interesting.
And then in my perception, we have this like soul identity that is just always us. It's always us. It's always been us. We might feel fractured and fragmented, but we're not actually. It's only because there are parts of us that have never been given permission to be expressed in the outside world. And this would be like how I would summarize like the difference between a soul identity and like a more false identity.
So thinking about identity, like if you have a part of your identity that's maybe you have sense that it's not as useful anymore for you. You're ready to like move into a new step into an identity. Like what's a graceful way to like let go of an older identity and step into a next version of one?
I'm going to rattle off a few things. I know you have some examples too.
Yeah.
So like anytime you feel like hopping in and just like,
well, I think like different things work for different people. So like maybe it's thoughts that you have, or things you've seen people do.
So one of the easiest things for me, because despite being incredibly woo, like I function very well with lists and clarity and logically thought out things, because that gives me a structure, and then within the structure I can play.
Great.
So one of the things that I find really helpful is like making a list of what you still enjoy doing, and separate that out from a different list is what you know and remember you used to enjoy doing, but you actually don't find joy in it anymore, right? Like there are lots of things as we evolve, we're like, but I used to love that. I used to wake up in the morning and like I couldn't wait to dive into that. And it just doesn't hold the same level of joy. And then we start to go into this like cycle of judgment. Well, I must be broken. Well, something must be wrong with me. Well, I must be procrastinating. Well, I must whatever long list of justifications we find that we may have lost our joy. We never, by the way, think of it in a positive way. Like, oh, I have simply evolved beyond that. What is the new thing?
No,
right?
no.
It's always like criticism of some sort. And so like just giving yourself a breath to acknowledge that there might be some things that you're still doing that you actually aren't enjoying. And that's where your lack of joy is coming from. And then just isolating the things that you do still enjoy and giving yourself some time to just be with that. Because it may not mean that you have to ditch what you're doing. You just might have to, just like you did, right? You just might have to reorganize in a way that you get to stay in your zone of genius, you get to stay in your joy, and someone else gets to take over the things that you no longer enjoy doing.
Yeah.
It might just be a shifting, or it may be that the entire thing that you were doing was because you thought you should, or because you thought you were good at it, and you don't actually have any joy in it whatsoever. And so but just pausing to like make some lists, like will give you that clarity of where you stand within that. If there's nothing left on your list of joy, that's a problem. Right? That's a red flag.
Yeah.
Like there is something that needs to change about what you're doing on a daily basis if there's nothing of joy on your list.
Yeah. Okay. And then how does like doing hypnotherapy or working with you, like how does that fit in? So you're like, here's the things on my list that I used to like doing, but I no longer like doing. Here's the things that I'm still really liking or want to do more of. Then what do you do if you come to like work with someone like you?
Oh, sure. Oh, that's such a great question. So I'll take one of my clients as an example, right?
Yeah.
Like his entire business, like, he's made a few tens of millions. His entire business was created on something that he just wanted to see if he would be good at. And it holds no joy for him anymore. None. Like barely the tiniest bit of joy in like mentoring people to take over from him, but that's it. And so what we have to do in session is we have to let go of all of his fear around separating from this thing that he's created.
Yeah.
We have to clear out whatever's stopping him from connecting with what he actually wants to do. And then we also are creating brand new pathways in his brain that have never existed before, that money can come from somewhere else other than hustle. that it can come from doing a thing that you love.
Yeah.
And it can come easy, right? And like, not only is he a masculine man, he's also a very logical masculine man. So these concepts are he's open, but they're so foreign to him that we're literally creating brand new neural pathways in his brain for a more aligned existence, because what he's created simply doesn't work for him anymore. Does that kind of make sense? Does that answer your question a
that
little
totally
bit?
makes sense. And I know what it feels like to come out of a session with you, for example. And it actually, you did a little thing earlier that made me think of this. So you were talking about imposter syndrome, but you couldn't, you're like, what is that thing called? It's called, imposter syndrome. Like you had wiped it clean from the core part of your brain. And that is what it feels like. Like if we go into a session and I'm trying to get over a fear about I have to do all of this part of my business. Like if I don't, somebody's going to mess it up and whatever. So if I come into the session with that, at the end, when I kind of come back fully to focus, I almost I know exactly everything that happened, but if you ask me the thing that we were working on, I almost can't. I can remember it, but it just is so irrelevant that it's just kind of wait, what was we were working? I was fearful about something, but yeah, it was this. That's what happens at the end of when we have a really juicy session, and so it just kind of it's moved. And I think that understanding of how that fits in with identity and what it looks like to kind of do this next level of work for yourself, I think will be really interesting to our listeners if they're interested in exploring. Abi, where can people find you if they want to learn more about your work and what you do?
Well, they can go to my website, Abi, A-B-I, Levine, Levine.com.
Yeah.
And you can just email me. I'm accessible. So it's the same, Abi@AbiLevine.com.
Easy. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being on the show. Love you so much.
Oh, it's been such a joy to connect with you here in this way. Thank you so much for having me.